Hey you guys! Oh my gosh, I look so dark. I think it's because I have my light on back there. Oh no! Guess we're just gonna have to deal. And don't mind all my stuff. I'm still recovering from getting back from the beach. Let me see if I can turn off that light. And I don't know if that will make it better, actually. Sorry, I'm just rambling. How are you guys? Can you wait to talk about this? I am so excited because this was wild. It was everything I want in a thriller and in a book to talk about with you guys because it just could have went so many ways. And hey, you guys! Oh my gosh! Stop Drop Disney. I love your username. Hey, Julie. Thanks you guys so much for being here. As you're entering, and leave a message in the chat and let us know if you read the book, if you liked the book, whatever your thoughts are, let us know. I have millions of notes as usual, and you can see I marked a few places to reference because there's just so much in this book. I still can't even believe it because I read this book like a week and a half or so ago, and I had to go back through and reread parts of it because I was like, so much happened. I couldn't even remember all the details. And that's pretty awesome because it was not a boring story at all whatsoever. And so we're going to discuss Not a Happy Family. And then once we talk about everything we want to talk about with this, I will announce the September book club pick, which I'm so excited about because I'm just always excited to tell you guys first because you're joining the live, so you get the first knowledge of what the next month's book is. Hey Annie. She said, I'm happy to be here and I read the book and so happy I can participate in the discussion. I enjoyed it. Easy read. Agreed. Such a quick and easy read. And you never know with thrillers. I just read another thriller, The Other Misses, and I have to say I much preferred Not a Happy Family because there's just a lot. There's a lot going on in both of the stories, but I just really, really like this book, so I'm glad you guys seem to like it as well. So I will give everyone another minute, but as you're joining, let us know in the chat if you finished the book. There will be spoilers here, so just keep that in mind if you didn't finish it yet. But we are going to dig into this, and oh my gosh, I just have so many notes. And this time I took notes as I was reading, which I think really was interesting to look back on because there were some things that I had a theory at a certain point, and I can't wait to tell you guys what my crazy theory was about who did it in this book, because as you know, anyone could have done it. There were so many, anyone literally could have done it. Everyone had a motive, and I had the most wild theory, which we will get into because I'm curious if any of you guys thought of this theory as well. I didn't read any other theories, so it might be a popular theory, but anyhow, we can dive right in. Oh my gosh, Jules, I knew it. I didn't know it, but I feel like that username is perfect for you. I love it so much. And yes, I agree. There's so many different ways this book could have gone, and that is what I really love about it. Totally agree. And let's talk about it, you guys. So, seems like we all really liked it, and I'm very, very happy about that. And I read it literally in a day. It was a Saturday or something, and I just read the entire day. It was amazing. And if you like this book, I would definitely recommend the movie Knives Out. It isn't exactly the same, of course, but it's a very similar whodunit. Everyone has a motive. It also had to deal with inheritance and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of a cool parallel that, like, in movie form that you might like as well. So there are so many OMG moments, but I kind of want to cut to the chase and then we'll like backtrack back to some of the other crazy things. But I would love to know if you're satisfied with this ending. And this was inspired actually by a comment Jules had in my Instagram like stories where I asked you guys to like say your thoughts about it. And like I totally agree, Jules, that I am not convinced and not fully satisfied with Jenna being the murderer. So I would love to know what else you guys thought. Like if you like Jenna as the culprit of it, or if you thought someone else was more likely to do it. Like she was totally, and I guess this is kind of the perfect thing, that I didn't even notice her in the book. Like, yeah, she was there. She was kind of the wild child. Honestly, I much more suspected Jake than her. And so that is good that we didn't see it coming. But I just felt like since there were so few details about her, I just felt like, whoa, this is so out of nowhere, in my opinion. So that was kind of a bummer to me. I think it could have been a little more interesting if another character was the murderer, but I liked actually the epilogue more than the actual ending because it was like where Audrey like knows or like has this feeling that Jenna did it and that she put the evidence in like the house that was being like the cement was being poured into the foundation, and then Audrey like buys, or at the very end she like calls her realtor to like buy that property, and I was like, oh my god, this is hilarious. Like I liked that way better than actually learning that Jenna did it. Like I just didn't really connect with that. So, yeah, totally agree. She was really in the book. And Jules said, I also didn't notice or focus on her. I didn't think she would have done it unless she was in it with the other siblings. Yes, that could have been so much more interesting. Like, she could have done it, but it was like all of them colluding together. Like, I think that would have been much more believable than her just working on her own. I don't know. So my crazy theory, you guys. Oh my gosh. I really wish this was the ending. And I thought it was because if you remember the chapter if you have the physical book, it started on page 331 when it's in italics and it's Sheila's point of view, the mom, and it like is going over the moments before her murder. And my theory, and it started, I wrote it down right when I thought of it, but it started after, like, my theory developed after we found out that Audrey, who is Fred's sister, we find out that Fred didn't have the chance to change his will to give Audrey the inheritance. And so at that point in the book, I'm pretty sure the only person who we thought knew about Fred's desire to change his will was Sheila. And I was like convinced that Sheila murdered Fred. Stay with me, you guys. She murdered her husband and then she committed suicide to make sure that her children, who she never stood up for against her husband, even though he bullied them and was horrible to them, she never stood up for them. And so I was like, Sheila probably killed him, and then like with regret and guilt, she also killed herself. And that was going to be the ending. And I thought that is why there was that italics chapter where it was in Sheila's point of view, and I was like, oh my god, it's happening. I was so excited, and then it wasn't. So that was, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you guys are on the same page as me. But like, literally, how much more interesting would that have been? And okay, if we thought it, then I guess it wouldn't be such a shock. But I would rather have something like that where, one, there was like justice, because I mean, I bet she wanted to stand up against him at points, but she didn't. And wouldn't that have been amazing? Like, her last thing that she did for her family was to make sure they get their inheritance. Like, I would have been much more satisfied with that, and I wouldn't have been like, oh, that's what I thought. Like, it was kind of like not a common thing that I've heard of in a book. So another book should do that, because that would just be perfect, because the victim was also the murderer. Oh my god, how incredible. So, oh yes, it would also have been cool if she planned it with the kids. Oh, that would have been amazing. Okay, so we are going to have to contact Shari Lapena and tell her to rewrite the ending, because I like our theories way better than what actually happened. But yeah, so that was my crazy theory I couldn't wait to tell you guys about. And so there were so many crazy things, and basically I just wrote out like, let's talk about the characters, because if you're like me, you have a lot of feelings about all the different characters, and there were so many. Like, literally, when I was listing them out, it was like so many, and I probably left some out. Like, I didn't even include the detective, I didn't include the lawyer, and then, oh my gosh, how good of a part was that when the lawyer, like, the other girl that Rose knew from law school, like, worked at that lawyer's office and told Rose about her real father and his will. Like, oh my god, that was, I think that was my favorite part, because I was so, like, I thought maybe Rose did it, but I didn't get how she knew about her father. And that part was crazy. And I really liked that. And I liked the part where like, her mom, Rose's mom, was like, I thought I knew my daughter so well, but now I know that she lied straight to my face about knowing who her father was. And I was just like, like, that's the kind of creepy, like, realistic kind of stuff that I live for in these books. So I thought Rose was a really interesting character, and I thought it was very, just like, very interesting and shady that she was friends with Catherine growing up. Like, that was, I wanted to dig more into that, because I was like, did she really not know? Like, I'm assuming not, because it sounded like her law school friend, like, just recently told her. But it's like, what a small world. Like, the world is a little too small if that actually happened. But speaking of Catherine, that girl creeps me out. And I wrote down the funniest line in this book. Oh my gosh, you guys. So it was a part where, like, and something I also liked about this book is that you were like an omniscient, like, you knew everything, you knew what everyone was thinking. And I really liked that, because we could hear like what Lisa, who was Dan's wife, and we could hear what Ted, who was Catherine's husband, thought. And Ted was, like, I have to say, Ted was my favorite character, because he was just so funny in, like, he was like in a horror movie. Like, he literally was living in a horror movie. And so this happened on page 291, and I wrote down that Ted was thinking, so this was Ted's inner thoughts, and it said, he's just not sure he wants a baby with her. He imagines the two of them with a baby living in the murder house, and has to suppress a shudder, because Catherine, I don't know if she was saying she wants to get pregnant, or she was pregnant, or whatever, but that was just so funny to me. Like, he should have been happy because they were, yeah, that she was definitely pregnant. And like, she just gave him like what should be good news. And he was like, I'm gonna live in this murder house that she inherited. And maybe she killed her parents for it. And that was just so funny. And then I felt horrible for him that, like, later, either in the last chapter or the epilogue, it was like Audrey saw him in the grocery store and he looked like so distressed and like horrible. And I was like, oh my God, Ted's life is over. Like, oh my God, literally his wife is practically a murderer. I would say, like, she saw her parents dead and didn't do anything. Like, that is almost as bad. Like, to me, that's almost as bad. I know it's not as bad as actually murdering them, but she took the ear. I literally had chills, you guys. She took the earrings out of her mother's earlobes when she was dead. That part gave me chills more than ever anything. Like, I could not believe it. Like, I was like, oh my God, really, I have chills talking about it because it is the most disturbing thing. Like, oh my God, that is so, so gross. And oh my gosh, yes, I agree with the comments. Like, can you believe they actually moved in there? Like, your parents were murdered there, and I'm pretty sure they like figured that it was Jenna, but you still want to live there. And geez, I shouldn't read these books like more than a week before I talk about them because I forget some details. But wasn't Ted like, you wouldn't still want to live there, would you? To Catherine, and she was like, yeah, why wouldn't I? And it's like, your parents were murdered there. She didn't even care. Oh my God, wild, wild stuff. So I really liked Catherine and Ted. I thought they were super interesting and very like creepy, but in a very entertaining way. And then Dan and Lisa. Oh my God. So if Catherine didn't do it, I would have definitely assumed that Dan did it, which would have been just too obvious. But wow, he really had a meltdown. He just like totally broke. And I'm not even surprised because his whole family treated him horribly and they all just acted like he was so dumb and like his life sucked, mostly because of his father and like firing him from his position. But then the fact that the reason he doesn't have any money is because of his half sister is just so horrible and like hilarious to a degree. Like, this guy cannot catch a break and he is a creep. Like, let's not forget, because at one point I started to feel bad for him, but really he just dug himself a deeper grave, like especially at the funeral when he like went off and he was basically like saying his sisters murdered their parents and everyone was like, yo, this guy is insane. Like, that was bad. Like, that was a very low point in his life, but he has many low points because of his stalking. Like, that was really, really creepy. And I didn't, or maybe I'm forgetting, like, that he would go to that house that he thought he was like investing in or whatever. And I don't know all about like whatever kind of investment he did. I don't really get what that is, but he would like just go and sit outside of that house like to keep an eye on it. Like, it was just like weird. Definitely made him seem capable of like stalking and then potentially killing. I don't know. But he was such a like a scapegoat for them. Like, it was so, no one would even have noticed Jenna around him going crazy. So it was kind of the perfect story for Jenna to just hide behind his like mania and like breaking down and stuff. So I did feel bad for him in the end, but man, he didn't make it easier on himself, that's for sure. And I really don't remember his wife. I just remember her starting to get really freaked out. Like, I thought that was an interesting part of it with like the spouses of Catherine and Dan, that you got to see how they were like starting to question their own partner, because like they just started to see this like evidence, or it's not even evidence, but just like the way that we perceive like people's different like habits and stuff. It's like, oh my God, you're super creepy. You have to be a murderer. Like, it's not what we should think, but that is how humans think. And I thought that, like, especially Lisa being like, oh my God, he had this like jumpsuit or whatever from painting in the garage. Like, he definitely did it, and he could cover up all of his DNA and stuff. Like, that was pretty interesting. I thought that that was a really good detail to make also the reader be like, oh my gosh, they're questioning even their own spouse. They probably did it, or they could have done it even more. Like, who knows? Okay, Irina. Irina was the other scapegoat. That poor woman who had done nothing but raise those children and like take care of that family, even though they were horrible. Like, I felt horrible, so horrible for her. I can't believe she actually was arrested, and they were all like, we knew Irina did it. Like, that was so just like, wow, like how quickly, and I guess kind of similar to the spouses, like how quickly people turn on each other, you know? So, poor Irina was just, ugh. And like, she did clean the murder weapon. So, let's not forget that, because she was covering up for the kids, I guess. But damn, like they would have easily, obviously, Jenna was trying to frame her because she drove her car and all of that. And like, Jenna's just evil. Like, the more I think about her, even though she wasn't really in the book much, if she had all that forethought to like basically set Irina up, she's even worse than I thought. So, ooh, don't tell people where your keys are. Lesson learned. Good point. Like, don't tell them where you keep your spare keys, and because they might frame you for murder. You never know. Like, literally rereading some of the ending with Jenna just being like so weird, and like my hair was in Irina's car because I hugged her and one of my hairs fell off. Like, wow. She didn't really have much going for her. But yeah, Irina, I felt horrible for her. And then in the end, I can't believe it, but I actually had some sympathy, or was on Audrey's side a little bit. Like, she was the only one that was still like even though her brother was horrible, he literally murdered his own father, but his father was also really horrible. But then Audrey had to cover up for him, or she chose to cover up for him, but like she really didn't have a choice, because like, wow, really, really, really bad situation there. But then like at first, of course, you're like really hating on Audrey because she is a different, strange-ish woman. But she was actually one of the most interesting characters in the end, which really shocked me. So, like, when okay, yeah, she was like such a conspiracy theorist, but then she ended up being right. So, yes to Audrey. And oh my God, one of my coworkers also read this book, and he sent me the funniest text. Wait, I have to read it verbatim because it was just so funny. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, let's see. He said, hey Audrey, but love the ending. That vindictive bitch. Go get him, Audrey. Dig up that concrete. And he was like, I also wish that Audrey did poison herself. Oh my god, because that would have been too funny. And like, she seemed like the type of person that would poison herself to make it seem like someone was trying to murder her. But Jenna did poison her. Like, man, Jenna is just cold-blooded. Like, that's what I don't like. Like, we didn't know enough about Jenna for me to like have any sympathy for her. I think that that's what I struggle with, because I just didn't really know her at all, and I don't know, I want to feel like something towards them. Like, I don't know, I guess that's part of why I wasn't satisfied. um, yes, Dan was weird driving around parked in front of his fake investment house, Audrey's house, and he puts himself, oh yeah, I forgot he parked outside of Audrey's house. Oh my god. He puts himself in a position where he looks guilty. Yes, exactly. Like, he was just a weirdo and unfortunately had very bad tendencies. Like, he really needs to stop driving around and parking out in front of women's houses. Like, that is so not right. But yeah, agreed. He puts himself in positions that make him look guilty. And Jake was quick to tell the police about what really happened and how he lied for Jenna initially. Yes, I had to go back and read that part because I was like, he like immediately ratted her out. Like, I don't know. I guess they initially interviewed him maybe a different time, but like the second time they interview him, he like flips on her immediately and is like, she knew all about her dad, like changing his will and changing his inheritance and stuff. And like, that perfectly made sense that she was the one that knew that. Like, she heard it from him. And so it does make sense, like, that she would have motive to do it, but still, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I agree, Julie. I wasn't invested in Jenna, so I had no feelings for her. Exactly. Like, it's just not satisfying, I guess, because we didn't really know her. Okay, wait a second. We have to talk about Rose and Ellen. Ellen, I just always forgot her name. I thought her name was like Barbara or something. And I hope I'm not like misremembering. But yeah, Rose's mom, yeah, it was Ellen. Strange. I just thought of her name as Barbara. I don't know why. But Rose was, like I said, Rose was a pretty interesting character. And I did like that there were, at the beginning, like, you obviously knew the main family, but then there started to be like chapters that were, I think, from Audrey's perspective. And at one point there was a chapter where it was like, Audrey knew Ellen or like something like that. Like, you were starting to put together like, oh my gosh, wait, that name sounds familiar. And like, you might, if you're like me, go back towards like the beginning to be like, who, like, how do they tie together? Because, oh yeah, in the second chapter is where Rose comes in. And oh, that was so good how it kept saying like, Rose did something she regretted, Rose did something so stupid, blah blah blah. And so you're like, did she murder them? Like, that was so good. And wait, Barbara, there is a Barbara. Who is Barbara? Wait, okay, you guys, who is Barbara? Please remind me, because now I feel okay. Barbara doesn't have any kids, so there aren't any nieces and nephews for her to fuss over. I'm not sure who exactly Barbara is, but I just always thought of Rose as being Barbara's daughter. I don't know. I just misremembered this so much. But anyway, when like we're starting to see through Audrey's perspective, I think that's when things started to really, like, I was hooked from the very first like sentence, I'm pretty sure. But like, Audrey, I feel like, kept the story going, and then Rose, just the way like her chapters were written, it just made me immediately think like she did it, obviously. But we know that Rose didn't do it, even though she does definitely have a dark side and she's not afraid to lie. And they were just all such interesting characters. Like, this would be a book I would reread because clearly I can't remember everything, even just after a week. I need to do better about like reading these closer to the time, because I try to read the book as close to my like live stream as possible, but this time I did a little early and I clearly can't do that anymore. But yeah, just the whole idea of Fred having a fourth child was mind-blowing. That was so insane. And that like it was just like so much insult to injury that Catherine told Dan or told Rose to talk to Dan or whatever. Like, Catherine still was part of it. Like, Catherine is still part of the reason that Dan lost all of his money. He should have never ever invested all of his retirement or savings or whatever it was. Like, that's just stupid. Don't be like Dan with investments or driving around and parking in front of people's houses. It's just not a good idea. And let's see, was there other? I think those were the main things. But literally, to me, the creepiest part by far was Catherine taking those damn earrings out of her mother's corpse. That is the most disturbing thing in this book to me, and I will never forget it, and I will never get over it, because I literally saying it, I have chills. I just cannot believe it. That is so disturbing, you guys. Oh my God. So if you guys have any last thoughts, let me know. I think we went over everything. I've been talking for 30 minutes. Where does the time go? I feel like I talked for 10 minutes. It's been 30 minutes. Annie said, is Barbara Ellen's sister that she visited on Easter and that was her alibi? Oh yeah. Good job, Annie. Thank you. Because I knew there was a Barbara. I just knew it. But I'm glad you guys enjoyed this book. And this, for sure, is one of my favorite thrillers. I don't love the ending, but I would easily give this book a 4.5 out of 5 because of how invested I was. Like, I really was invested in this book, and I loved it. So I'm glad you guys did too. And so now, without further ado, I am going to announce September's book pick, and it's a little bit of a mystery, but it's definitely going to be like deeper and more serious than this month's book. And I am super excited because this is a book I've seen before, but I forgot to add it to my read list, and so now we're gonna read it. So here we go. Drum roll. Okay, you guys, September's book pick is What Comes After by Joanne Tompkins. And so this book just seems like a really poignant, emotional book that has like a mystery like associated with it. So this is a little synopsis I found on Goodreads, and it says, with a propulsive mystery at its core, What Comes After offers an unforgettable story of loss and anger, but also of kindness and hope, courage and forgiveness. It's a deep, moving account of strangers and friends not only helping each other forward after tragedy, but inspiring a new kind of family. And so just from like a really high level synopsis that I saw, this is like very kind of vague, which is the kind of thing I like, but there is like a small town, I am imagining it as like a small town murder, and then like the mystery of that, and then this like other person like comes out of nowhere and is pregnant, and like she comes out of the woods or something. Like, I'm just imagining like such a crazy, like wild thing. So yes, What Comes After by Joanne Tompkins. That is the September book pick, and I will put that on my Let's Get Literary Book Club Instagram, so then you guys can see the cover and stuff. It's like a red cover. So just stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys liked this discussion. Thanks you guys so much for participating in it. As always, I really, really appreciate it. And I can't wait to read next month's book with you guys. So I hope you have a great day and a great evening, and I'll see you soon. Bye.